axial joints, the ligament connecting the axis, the atlas axis. Atlas means first cervical and axis is second cervical vertebra. And it's connecting with the axis with the occipital bone. Okay, so atlas and axis with the occipital bone. And there presents a numerous ligament and the ligamentum nucleus. So approximately 25% of the total height, vertical height of the cervical spine will be occupied by this craniovertebral joint. So you can see we have already discussed this occipital condyle in Normal Salis. So this is the occipital condyle, the small anterior region of the foramen magnum. This is the foramen magnum. So in the anterior region, there is pair of condyle, occipital condyle. So this articular surface of the condyle is oval or convex, and middle margin of the condyle presents the alar ligament. I'll show you this in another slide. Just this is the occipital condyle. In the occipital bone, you'll see the condyle. This is articulate with the postcervical vertebra. So atlas, this is the atlas. This is ring-like structures is formed by two lateral mass. Look at it. This is the two lateral mass which is connected anterior and posterior by anterior arch and by the posterior arch. Since this vertebra doesn't have spinous process, there is no spinous process. Okay, so there is no bone posteriorly between the occipital and the spinous process of C2. So as there is no spinous process in C1, so there is no bone present between the occipital bone and the spinous process of C2. Please look at here, there is no bone. One is posterior tubercle, this is anterior tubercle, this is anterior arch, this is posterior arch, and these are the lateral mass. Okay. So atlanto-occipital joint. So it is the variety of synovial joint, ellipsoid variety, and what are the articular surface? Above the you will get in the that means occipital and atlas. So atlanto-occipital joint. Now above you gave concave occipital condyle, and below you will get concave. Look at here, this is convex, this is concave. So kidney shape, superior articulating facet on the lateral mass of the atlas. So this is lateral mass. Here you'll get kidney shape, concave surface. Here this occipital condyle will articulate. Okay, this is the superior surface and this is the inferior surface. In the superior surface, here this occipital condyle will articulate, whereas in this inferior surface will axis will articulate with this. Okay. So ligament connecting this joint is the fibrous capsule. In every joint, you'll get the fibrous capsule. So fibrous capsule surround the joint and attach to the peripheral margin of the articular surface. And it is fibrous capsules is lined internally by the synovial membrane. So that's why there is movement and easy because of this. There is another ligament. This is anterior longitudinal ligament. Look at it. This is anterior atlanto-occipital membrane, anterior longitudinal ligament. Anterior margin of the foramen to the upper border of anterior arch of the atlas. Look at it. This is anterior atlanto-occipital membrane. This extends from anterior margin of the upper border of anterior arch of the atlas to the from here to the here, from foramen magnum up to the here. So this is the anterior atlanto-occipital membrane. You will get foramen magnum in the occipital, no? So from here it is joining up to here, and anteriorly strengthened by the anterior longitudinal ligament. It is again strengthened by this anterior longitudinal ligament. Look at it first, this one. This is anterior atlanto-occipital membrane. This is coming from occipital, from foramen magnum to the anterior margin, upper border of the atlas. So again, it is strengthened by the anterior longitudinal ligament, and it is laterally, it is continue with the anterior part of the capsular ligament. Okay, so you can give the capsular ligament. You can see here ligamentum lucae. This is the capsule of the anterior atlanto-occipital joint. You can see this is C1. This is the this is the anterior atlanto-occipital membrane. Okay. So again, there is posterior atlanto-occipital membrane. This one is posterior atlanto-occipital membrane. So it extends from posterior margin of the foramen magnum. From anterior margin, you are getting anterior atlanto-occipital membrane, whereas from posterior, you are getting posterior from the posterior margin of the foramen magnum up to the upper border of the posterior arch of the atlas. So this is the posterior atlanto-occipital membrane. Behind the lateral mass of the atlas, the membrane presents a concave free margin. So you'll get the concave free margin over here. Look at here, this is the concave free margin for the passage of pons vertebral artery. Can you see here, pons vertebral artery is going through this and pons cervical nerve. So in the posterior atlanto-occipital membrane, you can see the space for this. Okay, this is fourth vertebral. This is the for the vertebral artery and the pons cervical nerve. And laterally, it continues with the capsular ligament as the anterior atlanto-occipital membrane. Are you clear up to here? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, blood supply is as vertebral artery is passing through it. So, vertebral artery and C1 nerve movement biaxial joints is ellipsoid joint flexion, extension, noding movement will occur in the transverse axis. This is also known as joint of S. Atlanto-occipital joint is known as joint of S. You can note and S1 like if whenever we ask the question or whatever if you want to say S, you note it. That is because of this atlanto-occipital joint. You can also note now, move further, that is the because of the atlanto-occipital joint. Okay, so this is the joint of S. And lateral flexion abduction in the anteroposterior axis. This flexion and extension noding movement occurs in the transverse axis, whereas lateral flexion occurs in the anteroposterior axis. So these are the muscles involved for this, for the flexions, longus capitis, rectus capitis, anterior sternocleidomastoid. For the extension, rectus capitis posterior major, oblique capitis superior. You have to memorize this by yourself. Okay. Splenius capitis trapezius. For the lateral extension, again rectus capitis lateralis, semisplanus capitis, splenius capitis, sternocleidomastoid, and the trapezius. Okay, so these are the muscle providing the movement for the atlanto-occipital joint. Now we'll talk about the axis. So this is C2. Look at here. It is known as the axis as the odontoid process act as the pupil. This is the odontoid process or dens. Okay, this is also known as dens or axis or odontoid process. So this will which act as the pivot. Okay, this act as a pivot around which atlas will rotate. Okay, so this is the pivot and unique feature of the axis, the odontoid process or dens is located in the superior facet. In no other cervical vertebra, you can see this process. Only in C2, you'll see this dens or odontoid process. Okay, this dens project upward and represent the body or centrum of the atlas. So this is also the Viva question, which represents the body of the atlas. There is no body in the atlas, so it is so this dens will act as the body of the post-cervical vertebra. Okay, you have to remember dens act as the body of C1. Now this dens function as the pivot for the upper cervical joint and at the center for the rotation of atlanto-axial joint. Atlanto-axial joint. So atlas and axis will rotate over here. So the superior aspect, the anterior aspect of the dens is covered by the hyaline cartilage and covered in the midline facet for the articulation with the anterior tubercle of the atlas. So you can in the anterior there is for the this is hyaline cartilage over here, for the midline facet is here, for the median atlanto-axial joint. So anterotubercle of the atlas will come and articulate here. Whereas in the posterior aspect in the dens is usually marked by the groove for the transverse ligament. Okay, this is transverse ligament will present in the posterior aspect, whereas here will come the anterior arch of the atlas. So this is the joint. You look at it. This is the anterior aspect atlas of the anterior arch of the atlas is coming and articulating over here, and in the posterior you can see the this transverse ligament. Okay. So first look at here dens anterior what is coming. This anterior arch of the atlas is coming, whereas in this dens in the posterior surface there is group for the this transverse ligament. Okay. Now, atlantoaxial joint. So, atlantoaxial joint, this is the atlantoaxial joint, look at it. It comprises, there are three joints in the atlantoaxial, that is pair of the each side. On the each side, you can get to between the pair of lateral atlantoaxial. Here, what will happen? At this is what here will come the atlas. So atlas, this is the atlas and axis will come. This is lateral side, two will articulate, and in the medial also there is one side. So in the lateral side there are pair of lateral atlantoaxial joint. This is also in the lateral side between the inferior facet of the atlas. You have seen the inferior facet. So inferior facet of the atlas and the superior facet of the axis. These two will join. So look at here. This is the inferior facet of the atlas and this is the superior facet of the axis. So this is in the lateral side. Whereas in the median, so two pairs of in the lateral side, whereas in the median there are atlantoaxial joint. This acts as a pivot between the dens of the axis and anterior arch of the atlas. So you have to remember in atlantoaxial joint, there are three joints, that is two lateral joint, pair of lateral joint and one median joint. Okay, between the atlas and axis, there are three joints. You have to remember, two at the lateral and one in the center. So these joints move as a one unit. All of these move as a one unit and permit the rotation of atlas along the entire circles. So it's called. So entire circle will rotate along this three joint. So it's helping rotations of the head and also transmit the weight of the skull through atlanto-occipital joint. So this joint is also known as joint of no. Please rotate no गर्नलाई rotate गर त. So that is the atlantoaxial joint. S1 that is the atlanto-occipital joint. Nordic movement is atlanto-occipital, whereas atlantoaxial is also known as joint of no. So no गर्दाखेरि के भयो? You can rotate it. Okay. So first we'll talk about the lateral atlantoaxial joint. So its joint is plain joint formed by the inferior facet or concave of the lateral mass of the atlas with the superior articulating facet convex of the axis. So these two participate. Okay, this is the lateral atlantoaxial joint. On each side you will get. Okay, so it participates in the rotation of the head and also transmits the weight of the skull through the atlanto-occipital joint. Both the atlanto-occipital and lateral atlantoaxial joints are morphologically equivalent to the oncovertebral joints of the lower cervical vertebra. So these are morphologically equivalent to the oncovertebral joint. We'll discuss this in next slide. So atlantoaxial joint is supplied by C2. Now, what is oncovertebral joint or joint of Luxa? This is also known as joint of Luxa. So this is also known as neurocentral joints. Look at it. This is the oncovertebral joint. Here, what is happening? These are the four pairs of plain joints, synovial joints between the C3 and C7. You'll get in the cervical C3 and C7. They are found on the lateral and anterior to the intervertebral foramen on each side of the vertebral disc. So this is vertebral disc. So in each side you can get this. So what will happen? Body of the typical cervical vertebra is raised. Can you see the raised portion? This one, just like a lips. Okay, this raised portion. So this is also known as the uncal fossa at the side. So this articulation between this uncal fossa. So this is oncovertebral joint. On body of the typical cervical vertebra, there is presence of raised lips or uncal fossa. can see here process. So this two articulates and forms the oncovertebral joints. This one you'll get between the C3 and C7. The function of this is to follow the movement of the cervical spine, but as well as to control the movement and stabilize the neck. Okay, this will stabilize the neck in position. Are you getting this? Hello? छिटो भयो कि ठिक छ? It's okay.
ठिक छ म्याम।
अरु के हो? सबै सुतिरहेछ क्या हो? Capsular ligament. Now again in capsular ligament. So look at here. So this is the capsule. This is the capsular of this lateral atlantoaxial joint. So capsular ligament of the lateral joint is loose and attached to the peripheral margin of the articulating surface. The laxity of the fibrous capsule permits forward and backward and gliding during the rotation of the atlas. So this is capsular ligament, and simultaneously curvature of this articular surface allow the descent of atlas during the translatory movement and thereby prevent the stretching of the fibrous capsule. It will help to the descent of the atlas during the translatory movement. So it prevents the stretching of the fibrous capsule. Now we'll come to the medial. This one is the medial atlantoaxial joint. We have just complete the latter one. So in the medial atlantoaxial joint, what will happen? This is the pivot type joint, and it's formed by the articulation between the dens or horizontal process of the axis with the anterior arch of the atlas. So anterior surface of the dens, this anterior surface of the dens have an oval facet to articulate with the corresponding facet on the posterior surface of the anterior arch. So this is what anterior arch. It has posterior surface. So this posterior surface will articulate with this anterior surface of the dens. Okay. Now dens is kept in position. This dens is kept in position by this transverse ligament of the atlas that extend from the tubercle. So this is the atlas, this is extending over here to here. So this is another MCQ question, which ligament keep the dens in position. So you have to remember transverse ligament. Okay. Another also help, but mainly this transverse will keep the dens in position. There are apical ligament, alar ligament, they are also helping to put the dens in position, but transverse ligament is the main one, transversely present. Okay. So we'll talk about the transverse ligament. It attaches on each side from medial surface of lateral mass. So this is the lateral mass of the atlas. So it is coming like this. Okay. On the median plane, fibers extend. In the median plane, this fiber will extend towards the base occiput and downward to the body of axis to form the cruciform ligament of atlas. Okay. You have in the foramen magnum, you have studied the ligament, cruciate ligament. Now we will discuss this later. That this transverse ligament will go above and below, above to the occipital, below to the axis to form the cruciform ligament of the atlas. Transverse ligament also limit the amount of flexion between the atlas and axis. Okay, it's prevent the excessive movement. Okay. So all of three joints produce the rotatory movement around the vertical axis. I already told you this is the joint of no movement. Atlas carrying the globe of the head. Okay, that atlas is first one carrying the globe of the head rotates around the dens of the axis. So C1 will rotate around its globe of the head rotate around the dens of the axis. At the same time, atlas descend on the axis while translating the lateral atlantoaxial joint. Just you remember, atlas will will rotate and around the dens of the axis. Okay. So alar ligament are relaxed at the initial stage and permit the rotation. Look at it. These are the alar ligament on each side of the dens. This is the alar ligament. So what will this alar ligament will do? It are relaxed at the initial stage and permit the rotation. Now full rotation is checked by the tension of the alar ligament also. And what are the muscles producing the movement are rectus capitis posterior, major, oblique capitis inferior, splenius capitis on one side along with the sternocleidomastoid of the other side. So muscle you have to memorize 2-3 times. If you remember, then only it will be possible. So what are the ligaments connecting the axis with the occipital bone? There are 4 sets of ligaments bypass the atlas and connect the axis with the occipital bone. They are apical ligament, alar ligament, cruciform ligament, and membrana tectora. These all ligament you have studied in the foramen magnum from the anterior compartment. Do you remember this? If you remember, hello, समझे साइना? Oh my God, foramen magnum is divided into anterior and posterior भनेर पढेको हैन यो? Now look at your apical ligaments. So this is the ligament, the tip of the dens is connecting to the by the apical ligament to the dorsal surface of this layer pass of the occipital bone. This is going like this. So this is the apical ligament. Now we'll talk about the alar ligament. These are the alar ligament. So alar ligament connect the superior or apical part of the dens. Look at it, superior apical part to the foci and medial aspect of the occipital condyle. Although they can also attach to the lateral mass of the atlas. So it can also come to the lateral mass of the atlas. It's going like this. And are stretched during flexion and relax on the extension of the head. This ligament also check the excessive rotation at the atlantoaxial joint. So function is to resist the flexion, contralateral side bending and rotation of the neck. Cruciform ligament. It consists of horizontal band and the vertical band. Okay, this is cruciate ligament or cruciform ligament. This consists of horizontal band and the vertical band. Horizontal band or transverse ligament of the atlas. It connects the tubercle of medial side of the lateral mass of the atlas, medial side of the lateral mass behind the root of the dens of the axis. Now, similarly, vertical band. This is the vertical band opposite the dens, prolonged above and below. Look at it, it's prolonged above and below from the upper margin of the transverse ligament and lower margin. So above is going from upper margin and lower is going from the lower margin respectively. So vertical band is attached above to the upper surface of basilar part of the occipital bone between the apical ligament of this and membrana tectoria, and below it is attached to the posterior surface of the body of the atlas. So cruciform ligament, you have to remember horizontal and the vertical band. Okay. Now this is the membrana tectoria. Look at it. It lies within the vertebral canal. So it is from inside the vertebral canal. It's upward continuation of the posterior longitudinal ligament. You have this is posterior longitudinal ligament, this is membrana tectoria. So it is the upward continuation of the posterior longitudinal ligament. It covers the dens and its ligament. It extends from the posterior surface of the body of axis to the upper surface of the basilar part of the bone. Some axis it goes to the basilar part of the occipital bone. It is intimately adherent to the spinal dura mater. As here, it's lying the inner surface of the vertebral canal and spinal dura mater will pass from here. So it is adherent to the spinal dura mater. Now this is ligamentum nuchae. You have heard about this. So this is ligamentum nuchae is bilaminar, fibrous, elastic, and intermuscular septum that span the entire cervical spine. In the entire cervical spine, it extends. So it's extending from here to here. It extends from external occipital protuberance. By this time, you know the external occipital protuberance to the spinous process of C7. From protuberance, it is going to the C7. C7, where you get when you bend it, the most prominent one is the C7 cervical vertebra. So external occipital protuberance also you can feel in the occipital bone. So it extends from here to the C7. This is ligamentum nuchae. And occipital axial joint is flexed, superficial fiber tighten up and pull on the deep lamina, which in turn pull the vertebra posteriorly, limiting the anterior translation of the flexion. Therefore, flexion is set. Just you remember ligamentum nuchae and it helps in the atlanto-occipital joint, occipital class joint, and it extends from this extra occipital protuberance up to the C7. This is ligamentum nuclei. So this craniovertebral region is the house for the vital structures such as spinal cord, vertebral artery, and the brainstem. At is located over here. So date by the judial hanging. Due to the rupture of that transverse ligament of the atlas and fracture of the dens, what will happen? The atlas dislocate from the axis and compress the spinal cord with fatal outcome. That's why the what will happen when people tie their high neck to do the suicide. What will happen? This transverse ligament may tear or fracture of the dens will occur. Because of that, dens will go dislocate from that and it will compress the spinal cord. And what will happen? It will compress in the respiratory centers of the spinal cord, and due to the suffocation or due to blockage, the patient may die. And rupture of the transverse ligament resulting the Prost or Jefferson fractures. Okay, with or without incomplete dislocation of the axis, injury of the spinal cord and brainstem. If in road traffic accident or anything happened, injury to the spinal cord in the area, in the injury to the brainstem may cause quadriplegia. The difficult what will happen? There will paralytic movement. No movement will occur in the forelimbs. Okay, so that is called the quadriplegia. Are you clear up to here? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Just study cranial C1, C2 vertebra, पढिसक्यो cervical vertebra?
पढिसक्यो, ma'am.
त्यसले चाहिँ थाहा छ तिमीहरूले सबै. Now lacrimal apparatus. So we have to study this in orbit because small portion, so थोरै भए पनि यही कास्टमा मर्ज गरेछ है. So what is the lacrimal apparatus? Like short nose on lacrimal apparatus भनेको के क्वेशन आउँछ है? MBBS लाई 3 marks, BBS लाई 5 marks. So lacrimal apparatus is concerned with the secretion and drainage of the lacrimal tears, lacrimal or tear or fluid, whatever you say. It includes lacrimal gland. This is the lacrimal gland. It's dot, conjunctival sac, lacrimal puncta. You can see it. This is the lacrimal puncta, lacrimal caniculi, lacrimal sac. Okay, so these are the constitute. Lacrimal apparatus भनेपछि you have to say gland. त्यसपछि dots, conjunctival sac, puncta, त्यसपछि के भन्नु lacrimal caniculi, lacrimal sac. Okay, that will open into the inferior meatus. So these are the constitute of it. So what is lacrimal gland? It is the compound tubuloalveolar gland. It secretes the serous fluid. Okay, it is situated in the lacrimal. This is fossa for the lacrimal gland. So it is situated in the lacrimal fossa. Is situated above the eyeball in the anterior and upper part of the orbit. So look at here in the orbit, in the anterior and upper part, you will see the group. This group fossa for the lacrimal gland. So what will happen? Lacrimal gland is present laterally and this secretion will come to the medially. It's go like this. So lacrimal gland, it consists of, this is the orbital part and this is the palpebral part. This upper large as a whole, this is the lacrimal gland, and this much is the orbital part and this is the palpebral part. Both of this is continuous with each other with lateral margin of the levator-palpebrae superioris muscle. You can see here, this is the levator-palpebrae superioris muscle. So this divides into two, that is orbital part and palpebral part. So we'll talk about the ducts. After the gland, this convey the lacrimal fluid. From here, fluid will come and this gland to the conjunctival sac by this lacrimal gland. Cut here. lacrimal dots, sorry. There are about 12 lacrimal dots, small dot, there are 12 lacrimal dots open in the lateral part of the superior fornix of the conjunctiva. In the superior fornix of the conjunctiva, this will open. And look at your 4 to 5 from the orbital part. From this last part, orbital part, only 4 to 5 will come, whereas from this palpable part, 6 to 8 lacrimal duct will come. So this dot, both from the orbital part open into the conjunctiva after passing through. From here, this dot will come to the palpable part, then running into the conjunctival part. Therefore, if there is damage to the palpable part equivalent to the removal of the entire gland, as this orbital part dots have to pass from the palpable part. So if it is damaged, what will happen? There is no use of this secretion also because this is already damaged. So if it is damaged, it is equivalent to the removal of the entire gland. So look at here, this is the lacrimal dot, this is the accessory dot, this dot is opening in over here. Okay, superior conjunctiva. Look at here. So talking about the accessory glands, these are present close to the conjunctival fornix on both eyelids, upper and lower, both you are getting the accessory lacrimal gland. Okay, but more numerous, these are more numerous in upper one, upper eyelid. Okay, it moistens the conjunctiva and cornea after removal of the main gland. If as there is damage to the main gland, this accessory gland will do its work. Okay. Now we'll talk about the conjunctival sac. Look at it. This is the upper eyelid. This is lower eyelid. This is eyeball. So this is the conjunctival sac. Look at it. This is conjunctival sac. So conjunctiva, it's transparent mucous membranes that line the inner surface of the upper. Look at it. This is the inner surface of the upper eyelid and front of the eyeball. So conjunctival sac will go from inner surface of the back of the upper eyelid and it goes to the water, it goes to the in front of the eyeball. Similarly, it's coming like this in the lower also. So conjunctival lining of the inner surface of the eyelid is called known as the palpebral conjunctiva, whereas conjunctiva lining the front of the eyeball, if this is the conjunctiva, it is known as palpebral conjunctiva because it lines the inner surface of the eyelid. If this conjunctiva, this lining the outline or lining in front of the eyeball, this is called ocular, bulbar or ocular conjunctiva. Please remember this. There are two types of conjunctiva. If inner side of the eyelid, that is known as palpebral conjunctiva, whereas if it lines the bulbar or eyeball, that is called bulbar or ocular conjunctiva. So space between these two, potential space between two palpebral and bulbar conjunctiva is called conjunctival sac. Okay, so this is called the conjunctival sac. The line of reflection between the palpebral and bulbar part, or this other conjunctival fornix, also present over here. So these are the fornix, sac and the fornix. Okay, so this is superior fornix and the inferior fornix. Okay, these are the superior fornix and the inferior fornix. So we'll talk about the lacrimal puncta. Look at it. This is the lacrimal puncta, or this small one. Can you see here, small one? This one like this lacrimal canaliculi. So this L-shaped small canaliculi canals is 10 mm in length. This small one, can you see here from puncta to the lacrimal sac? This is the lacrimal canaliculi. So this is 10 mm in length, present on its eyelid and begins at the lacrimal puncta, opening a small elevation at the lacrimal papillary. If this is lacrimal papillary, so lacrimal puncta, lacrimal punctus is opening over here. Look at it. This is opening over here. Near the middle angle of the eye. This is the medial angle of the eye. So this is the lacrimal punctus. It's drain the lacrimal fluids and open in the lacrimal sac. So that's why what eyeliner or eye pencil is not used for the babies because why? It will block this lacrimal puncta. Okay, or that's why also ophthalmologists recommend not to put the eyeliner because it might block this. Okay, begins at the lacrimal ponta opening, and it's during the lacrimal fluids, and it's open this lacrimal ponta, it's opening. Where it is opening? It is opening in the lacrimal sac. Now we'll talk about the lacrimal sac. So you can see over here like this. So this is the lacrimal sac. This is upper blind end of the nasolacrimal duct. Nasolacrimal duct you have studied in first year also. So this upper blind of this nasolacrimal duct is lacrimal sac. Okay, this is 12 mm in length, situated in lacrimal fossa. So this is lacrimal fossa here. It is, which is formed by the frontal process of maxilla and lacrimal bone, covered by laterally by the lacrimal fascia. In orbit, you study this. In the boundary of the orbit, you have studied this. So this is the lacrimal fossa. Now we'll talk about the nasolacrimal duct. Okay. So this is nasolacrimal duct. What is happening? Nasolacrimal duct, look at here. It is the membranous canal about 18 mm in length. Look at it, 18 mm in length. Begins at the lower end of the lacrimal sac. It begins over here at the lower end of the lacrimal sac, and it's shown downward, backward, laterally in the bony canal, and opens in the inferior meatus of the nose. This is the common Viva question which we have asked in the first year, but we can also ask in the second year. So nasolacrimal duct opens in the inferior meatus of the nose. Okay, lower opening of it is fold. Mucous membrane. That fold is there is also another fold. It's present. Okay, covered by that. Look at here. It's hiatus, opening in the hiatus. Nasolacrimal duct. It's opening over here. Right. So this is the inferior meatus where this nasolacrimal duct will open. Now arterial supply, look at it. This is the orbital part and palpebral part. This is the tendon of levatopalpebral superior. It's going like that. And what are the arterial supply? It is supplied by the lacrimal branch of the ophthalmic artery, branch of the internal carotid artery, and not supplied through the lacrimal branch of the ophthalmic nerve. The sensory innervation, it returns to the CNS to the lacrimal branch of the ophthalmic nerve. And parasympathetic innervation, it stimulates the fluid secretion from the lacrimal gland. Sympathetic innervation by the vasomotor. Just nerve supply and artery supply, you have to remember this lacrimal branch of the ophthalmic nerve, whereas for the arterial, that is the lacrimal branch of the ophthalmic artery. It's the branch of the internal carotid artery. So eyelid, what is this? Two movable curtain placed in front of the orbit for the protection of the eye. Upper eyelid is larger and more movable, and space between two eyelids is the palpebral fissure. At two and the fifth features, the eyelid meets, forming the medial and the lateral angle, or the canthi of the eye. So look at it. So this eyelid is meeting over here. At the middle angle of the eye, there is reddish triangular structures, or lacus lacrimalis. This is known as where the tears is collected. Okay, within the lake, in the center of this lacus lacrimalis, there is a small elevation. That small elevation is known as lacrimal caniculi or caniculus lacrimus. It's made of a modified skin. Okay, so look at here in the middle angle you are getting the lacus lacrimalus, and in the center you are getting the lacrimal caniculi, caruncles. Okay, so this is the lacrimal caruncles or canicular lacrimalis. Okay, lateral to the caruncle, you'll get the bulbar conjunctiva and is pinch off to form the semilunar fold that is called plica semilunaris. Look at here. This is plica semilunaris. So from here you are getting over here. This is the fold. Okay. This is the fold of the bulbar conjunctiva. It is plain off to form the plica semilunaris. Now we'll talk about this upper eyelid. The free margin of each eyelid is again divided into lateral 5/6 and medial 1/6. Okay, this eyelid is divided into pre-margin of each eyelid is divided into lateral 5/6 and medial 1/6. So lateral and the medial. So lateral 5/6 lid margin presents rounded and outer sharp inner lip. It consists of outer lip. It is provided with two rows of eyelashes. You can see here eyelashes or cilia, which is associated with ciliary sweat glands or mole or sebaceous gland. Or you know about this. Inflammation of this gland is called stye. The gland is swollen and painful and make the eyelid edematous because of this. Okay. In the outer lip, you'll get the two rows of eyelashes or cilia, which is associated with this sweat gland or mole or sebaceous tube or you can say inflammation of this is called style. Okay. Inner lip. In the inner lip present the row of opening of modified sebaceous gland or called tarsal gland. As in the tarsal plate is present over here. So if there is tarsal gland is present or that is meibomian gland, that is also known as tarsal gland is known as the meibomian gland, and inflammation of this tarsal gland is known as the phalangian. Okay, most probably you have heard about this. So just you have to remember if there is inflammation of the sebaceous gland over here in the eyelid, that is called style, or if the inflammation of tarsal gland is called phalangian. Okay. So medial one sip is, now look at here in the eyelid, medial 1/6 part, this part is rounded and devoid of eyelashes. You can't see the eyelashes. You can see eyelashes over here, but in the medial 1/6 we are not getting any eyelashes. So this is rounded and devoid of the eyelashes, and it is traversed by the lacrimal canaliculi. We have discussed about this. So at the junction of lateral 5/6 and medial 1/6 of this eyelid, you can get small elevation. This is called lacrimal papilla or papillary lacrimalis, where lacrimal punctum will open on the summit of the papilla. We have discussed before also. This one. Look at it. This is medial one and this is lateral one. Medial is devoid of eyelashes, and here you'll get the lateral eyelashes. And in between that, you're getting the small elevation that is called lacrimal papilla, and lacrimal punctum will open over here. So in the structure of the eyelid, you're getting skin, superficial fascia. So this is loose and elastic, devoid of fat. Palpable feature of orbicularis. Always you have studied the orbicularis oculi. You have studied the muscle of face, no? So you know about this. Tarsal plates and tarsus contains bands of fibrous tissue near the lead margin. It gives what this tarsal plate will give. It gives the stiffness. It gives the stiffness to the upper eyelid, and tarsal gland is located within it. And then conjunctiva, it is lining the posterior surface of the tarsal plates. So this is the plates. So this is supertarsal muscle. You can see over here, and these are the all the structures present over here. So there are different applied. So hypophoria, what is that? That means excessive watering of the eye. Okay, and dry eye. This is you can see red eye. So this is because of the dry eye. This is a common condition that occurs when your tears are not able to provide adequate lubricant for the eye. Tears can be inadequate and unstable for many reasons. Okay, so dry eye may produce due to this. Just remember the hypophoria means excessive watering of the eye, and dry eye is the condition if tear is not available in your eye. And this one is the dichirocystis. This is the infection of the lacrimal sac, which you have studied previously. So secondary to the obstruction of this nasolacrimal duct at the junction of lacrimal sac, this dichirocystis occurs. So these are the all applied. This is very painful condition. Okay, occurs over here. So this was for today. Do you have to repeat? Do you understand? Hello? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
So craniovertebral joints also right sternals, right shortnose on craniovertebral joints. Just you have to name the in the craniovertebral joints what are the joints present. That is atlanto-occipital, atlanto-axial, and there are two types of lateral atlanto-axial joint and median atlanto-axial joint. You have to study like that. Okay. So 3 marks short question will come.